Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday. And of course, we're in the midst of the holiday experience. This is Resolve to Live Forward. I'm your host, John Morrow. And you may notice, for those of you that do follow me on the video portion of this podcast, which is available on YouTube and may be also available on certain podcasting platforms that provide both audio and video. But getting back to the principal point, you may notice that the entire background is different because I'll let you in a little secret here on this Friday, the 13th. Well, not the 13th, I'm sorry. This Friday, the 12th of December, the day before Saturday, the 13th. And of course, I always like to count numbers, interestingly enough, by football scores. I think of a football score as a touchdown, 6 points, and a point after. And so I tend to think in sevens as well as in threes. Isn't that interesting? But that's another story for another time. But anyway, on this Friday, the 12th of December, here, as we put this out across Buzzsprout to multiple podcast platforms, including the iTunes platform and obviously Spotify. I tend to usually have a background, and I do this on Zoom. Zoom has MP4 capability for both audio and video. So I'm recording on my Zoom platform. Then I produce this and upload this. It's a process. It does not stream live direct. It is always pre-recorded, uploaded, and then launched at a specific time. And on Friday, it's usually 12 noon Eastern time. I will tell you that this morning, this late morning in Central Florida, where I live, we woke up to a low temperature here in Central Florida in Lakeland in the 40s. Now that's cold for Florida. But for me, it's not a bad thing at all. As a matter of fact, it's quite refreshing, and outside the sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. But what I want to draw your attention to is the background. This is my little makeshift studio that I created in my home. This used to be my son's bedroom, so now it serves as an office slash recording studio. And what you're seeing behind me is actually not for promotional purposes. It's just a layout. It's just the stuff I collect. There's all kinds of things back here. But I just wanted you to know it looks different from the background you normally see, which is a Zoom virtual background that I created on the, what do you call it, programming Canva. And I happen to like Canva. I'm not super fast and proficient with Canva, but I have fun playing with it and I enjoy doing it. Welcome to Resolve to Live Forward. So glad you're here. It's a great time. It's also a challenging time. We're winding down the year. There's the holiday things to do. There's all kinds of activities taking place. I'm involved in church and we have events taking place there. I'm involved in Toastmasters. We have things taking place there. Then I have family in particular. A little bit later today, I'm going to be entertaining my two granddaughters, and they're going to be here as my guests while their father, who they all live in Tampa, I live in Lakeland, so that's Tampa's about 26 miles away. They're going to be here with me, and I'm going to be grandpa babysitter, watching as those two girls just get into and under and over and around and through everything. And yeah, mess making takes place, but I'm equipped, prepared, and in the right mindset to do it. And a little part of me is always sad because when the girls come, I imagine what it would have been so much like if my late wife, Donna, who died before these girls were born, would be able to enjoy the grandmother thing. I would imagine I would be pushed aside by her and she would take charge of everything. Today, in this particular session, I want to first recall something I shared with you when we concluded last week's episode. I recommended that you think about beginning this process of creating or starting a journal, but not a typical journal, excuse me, but rather in the morning when you first get up, try to write down three things that you're thankful for. And as I thought later, I thought to myself, do you have also maybe possibly three things that you have written down that are your objectives to achieve for the day? Setting yourself up for success by having the right kind of frame of mind and mindset. And I talk a lot about mindset. Excuse me. I'm recovering from a head cold, so I'm not at my best. And I apologize for those of you watching on YouTube if I take a tissue and touch my face just to kind of keep things under control. And maybe you can tell in my voice that it's a little bit raspy from these are the sorts of things, and a lot of that's going around. But I digress. I want to talk this morning about something that I feel is extremely important, particularly in this day and age that we live in. I'm going to mention people, places, circumstances. But let me share with you without getting into deep specifics because it's not a news flash item. The other day, I watched a video taken from a person in their car. It appears that they probably have what you call a dash cam. I have a dash cam in my car. They were driving on Interstate 95, which is over on the east coast of Florida. It goes up along the east side of the state. And the proximity is that this was over in that area that is where 95 is directly east of Orlando. So that would put it in the Titusville, Cocoa Beach, Cocoa and Rockledge area of Florida, for those of you that are familiar with the geography of the state of Florida. And what it was, and it was dusk, but there was enough light that with the dash cam, you are able to see this driver observe a twin engine private passenger plane carrying two occupants run out of gas, or not run out of gas, but somehow or the other experienced engine failure so that the engines shut off and was trying desperately, frantically, fearfully to find a way to set that plane down on Interstate 95. And unfortunately, and this is the unfortunate part, as they were coming down, that's the law of gravity. They landed squarely or set down squarely as they were coming down on the top of the roof of a vehicle that was traveling on the highway. The plane and the vehicle both kind of swerved. There was this period where the plane was actually resting on the car, but eventually the car came to a grinding halt, and the plane lurched forward but came down on its belly, and both vehicles stopping, the plane just in front of the car and just to the left off the side of the road. Now, horror of horrors, you would think, how would anybody survive something like that, particularly the person driving the car? And what about the two passengers in the car? Three people involved. And the camera footage on that dash cam was as clear as crystal. You got to see it. What you didn't get to know unless you listened to the commentary was a miracle took place. None of the three people involved, the two occupants in the plane or the occupant driving the car, were killed. Additionally, the two occupants in the plane were not injured. The entire compartment that housed the passengers on that private two-engine passenger plane was intact. They were alive, yeah, scared half to death, shaken, probably bumped and bruised and who knows what else, but alive, able to walk away. What's even more astonishing is that the occupant driving the car aside from very minor injuries, was able to walk away from the vehicle. 3 people. But here's the thing that caught my attention as I was listening to the commentary on ABC News. According to the initial reports, and they may not be right, I clearly heard them say that all 3 were age 27. How unusual and unique and rare is that? That you have 3 people involved in a totally random, unexpected, unfortunate accident where the engines failed. And they try to bring it down on a freeway. And unfortunately, in bringing it down, there was a motor vehicle that was right in the crash site, and the motor vehicle took the brunt of the hit of the plane as it fell to the ground. And then all the occupants not only survive and walk away with minimal injuries and obviously nothing life-threatening, no fire started, no explosion, nothing like that. No one else was involved as far as other vehicles or pedestrians or anyone in that area. It was an interstate. And amazing of amazing, all 3 were 27 years of age. What's the significance of 27? Nothing. I mean, it's just a coincidence. But it was a miracle. Miracles, a lot of people have different explanations for them. And a lot of people who are very fundamentally logical, and they use logic to the degree that it's just the randomness of the universe. They just happen to be 27. They just happened to live. It was the circumstances of that particular situation. And I get that. But I also get this. I come from a background of faith, and I believe that there is a force in this universe. I call him God. And I say him, he's really not a gender, but he is involved in life. And I think he's directly associated with life. And because he is, I think he actually has a role in playing. And people will rail about this. It's okay. I'm not trying to postulate any type of religious belief. It's how I'm wired. I've been doing it for a long time. Got to remember, I was born in 1950, so I grew up in a very, very different type of mindset. But in growing up, I have not stopped learning and understanding and trying to embrace and also deal with the wonder that is life. Because if you're going to go through, as you know, with my story of my wife and her death in 2019, devastation can rewire you in such a way that there are so many fundamental things that take place in your life, and among them is grief and pain and anguish and sorrow and trauma. This was a traumatic event. I fully expect that the individuals will be both thankful and breathe a sense of relief. I'm alive, but there is a trauma, and that trauma is hardwired into them. Once it's there, you can't make it go away. You're going to have to learn to deal with it. One of the things that I talk about in my public speaking is the idea of traumatic, devastating, life-altering. Sometimes they bring you to a complete sudden crash, almost burn situation, is that you are going to be left scarred. And if you're left scarred, you carry something with you going forward if you are able to go forward, which is really the key point. This I believe with all my heart. Tragedy, sorrow, devastation, that thing which brings us to a grinding halt, stops us, knocks the feet out from underneath us, causes us to fall down. I'm being figurative here, it's a metaphor. But imagine yourself, you have just had something happen to you and you are lying, not literally, but figuratively, face down, flat on your face, in a pool of anguish and sorrow and utter trauma. You're devastated. There are, those worst case scenarios, but this is an emotional catharsis. It is something that is seared into your very total personality in your mind, heart, and body, soul. You can't forget it. You can't unremember it. You must find a way to live forward. There are lots of ways that you can do that. Excuse me. Does that make them easy? No. Do I have answers? No. Do I have things that I have found that have helped me with my trauma? Yes. And I've shared them with you, particularly the power word resolve, the 7 best practices or behaviors based upon the 7 letters of resolve, which is people that have a resolute mindset who are resolved. They live the practice of resolve. They are, in order of the letters, resilient, engaged. They are servant hearted. They are organized. They've got a plan. They are constantly learning. They also keep the vision alive in themselves, and they will themselves into enthusiasm even when days are difficult. Which brings me to yet another point. We live in a time where there is more and more pressure being exerted on us by circumstances all around us, from the very core of our own physical bodies and the things in the form of nature and the realm and this place that we live in that potentially pose a threat and a danger to our lives. The the working world that we live in, or if you're like me, retired, being sure that my finances are sufficient to help me meet the obligations that I have to pay for. The Well, there's just all kinds of situations. And then the world. See, if we spend our time thinking about potential things, that creates fear. The problem with fear is that fear, based upon Dr. Sorensen's book, Living in the Now, is an abstract. We're we're thinking ahead. And how do I say this? I've learned that it's important to think ahead because you have to have a definite, firm plan of action. That's what the definition of resolve is. But having that definite, firm plan of action is not about borrowing the worries of the potential problems that could arise. Now, granted, we all know that there are consequences for things that are happening now. We know that things that didn't go well for us previously have consequences that could very well manifest. If we put our time in the course of each and every day that is gifted to us, and I call it a gift, into wondering and worrying about what will happen, the fallout from that. And it makes sense. But if we put too much time into it, what we're doing is we're stealing from ourselves and we're missing out on what we can do today. Now, what has that got to do with that amazing story of that plane car accident that happened on I-95 in East Central Florida on a late evening, or a late afternoon, if you want to call it, during dusk, just barely light? It has to do with the fact that there are random things that do happen. There may be design in them, but they happen. They happen for a purpose, or they happen simply because stuff happens. But if we see something like that, we wonder to ourselves, this could happen to me. And if we dwell on it, it begins to change the frame of our mind and the way we think, and we lose connection. We lose connection with now. We lose connection with what's happening now and what we can be doing to make life now as good as possible. We're missing out. We're penalizing ourselves. The things that we can't control are going to happen. And if you're in the right frame of mind, you're equipped to find a way to deal with them. Don't take up the time that you're trying to live now and miss out on living life to the fullest extent, moment by moment, day by day. But understand there will be challenges, there will be struggles, and there will be difficulties. That brings me now to the wrap-up piece here. When we come into situations where we have been devastated, and devastation takes on many forms. Mine, and I've had other traumas in my life, other terrible cataclysms. I've told you about them. I've had a house fire, the loss of a pet that we loved, so many things. Our house has been broken into in the course of 45 years 3 times. That's a frightening, traumatic thing. I wasn't there, thank God, but it's happened. So many things, automobile accidents, diagnosis, cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. But watching my wife die was by far the most traumatic. Nothing like that had ever happened to me before, and nothing like it has happened since. Yes, I lost my father. I lost my mother. I've lost other people that I love. My wife's death was by far the most devastating thing that ever happened to me. But I had a formulary that she helped me put together, and that helped me to live forward and helped me to find a way towards finding a quality of life. And I do it because it's a framework that gives me focus, but I also do it because I think it's it's a dedication to her legacy. It honors her because the 46 years that she was with me represented at that time 2/3 of my life, and she had been the most transformative force in my life. Therefore, it honors her. But you see, this is where I want to bring you into focus with the true core nature. Just as I said in simplification, you need to, in the morning, my challenge, write down 3 things you're thankful for. Just stop and pause, take the time and catalog those 3 things. Keep it at 3 because 3 is a number that seems to have power to help us manage and control what we're doing on a day-by-day basis. Do the same thing mindfully as it relates to what you want to target for accomplishment for the day so that you can achieve. But here's the core thing that I want to point out, and this has a different meaning. It has to do with what do you do when something terrible's happened to you? What do you do when you've gone through a divorce in a marriage that you truly were dedicated to? What do you do when you had a job that you loved thoroughly and thought it was the dream job of your life and then it's yanked out from underneath you or the company goes out of business? What do you do when you had a business that you loved and felt fulfilled in and it goes bankrupt because of circumstances beyond your control? What do you do when you get that diagnosis that kicks your feet out from underneath you and you suddenly find yourself on your knees or even flat on your face in anguish and sorrow because it seems like a death sentence? What do you do? What do you do when your home's broken into and your valuables have been taken from you and you suddenly feel vulnerable, you feel violated, and you feel unsafe in your own home? What do you do when you're in an automobile accident and maybe you're not injured, but the vehicle, you don't the vehicle's brand new. You didn't buy gap insurance. Now your insurance is going to pay the total loss, but the total loss is going to be based on the blue book value of the car, which is almost always going to be less than what you still owe for the car. So now you not only need a car, but you need extra money to pay off the debt for the car that you bought. Scenario after scenario after scenario comes up. These are fear creating, but they are also debilitating, devastating. They put us into a situation where we can't seem to see our way clear. The thinking process here in all circumstances involving these kinds of tragic, devastating, hurtful, sorrowful, brokenness moments, there's really only one of two choices. Only one of two choices. Think about this. I've often quoted that phrase from The Shawshank Redemption. Andy Dufresne saying, get busy living or get busy dying. That's a bit stark, but it makes sense because that's really what it comes down to. But here's another phrase. If you don't do something with that trauma, that anguish, that sorrow, that devastation, if you don't take action with it and have a framework plus a network of people that care about you around you and systems and other resources, and I'm not talking about self-medicating, folks. I'm talking about the framework such as my Resolve framework that has helped me to be able to have a systematic way of step-by-step approaching each and every single day as long as I commit to doing these things, whether I feel good or not. If you don't have a way to move forward with that trauma, with that sorrow, with that anguish, with that brokenness or that devastation, be absolutely guaranteed that trauma, that situation, that devastation, that sorrow, that anguish, it's going to make the decision, the choice for you. Who's in control? You must be in control, at least enough to make the choice that will give you a reason to live forward with meaningful purpose. You can get unstuck. You can shift. You can start baby steps, one step at a time to live forward through any situation. But you have to have the mindset to do it. That's why I felt called over a year ago to do this podcast, Resolve to Live Forward. As I've said before, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am not a professionally trained mental health counselor. What I am is a man who has seen and lived through and has benefited from the insights, the help, the resources, the care, the love, the giving, the teaching, the training, the counseling of people who felt that I mattered, and they mattered in my life as a result. I hope that I, perhaps maybe, am one of those people in telling my story because I'm not unique. I'm part of a community of people out there that are just trying to find their way forward. And it's doable. It is doable. I'm out of time. I need to wrap up. What a beautiful Friday it is in Central Florida. Wherever you're at, I hope if you are waiting for this to launch and you are now there at that 12 noon time and you're on one of the platforms that is part of the podcasting network that Buzzsprout provides for me to send to you, I hope you're watching. I hope you'll give me feedback. I hope you'll contact me. Let me remind you, this is Resolve to Live Forward, the podcast with John Morrow. It's available in the iTunes Store, on Spotify, and on several other podcast platforms through the services of the hosting platform Buzzsprout. Number two, I will be uploading it to YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it. It's all pre-recorded. And number three, I do welcome, if you are so inclined, you're reaching out to me by email. John Morrow Coaching, John, John, Morrow, Morrow, Coaching, John Morrow Coaching at gmail.com. John Morrow Coaching at gmail.com. I just want you to know you matter. And I'm thankful that I have the ability, and as you can see, this is my little studio. This is my little area. This is a very personal place and a very personal space for me, but it's my special space. But it's a space that gives me the opportunity to have a conversation with you. And that's why I look in the camera lens, because I want you to know I am talking to you. And if I can say something or do something or make a difference, I'm thankful for it. I'm not for everybody, but I do believe many of us out there just need to come together and begin to align ourselves with the understanding that support in times of difficulty is the most important thing we can do. And I thoroughly believe that even in the randomness of life, there are miracles. But the key thing to remember is this. Whatever happens to you, even though it's unfair, it doesn't seem right, and it's terribly, terribly horrible and even tragic, there's something in there for you that you can do with it. But you have to make the choice to resolve to live forward. And don't let it, the tragedy, the trauma, the difficulty, the loss, the fear, define you. All right, we're done for now. This is John Morrow. Thank you for joining me today on Resolve to Live Forward. And as I always try to say at the end of each and every single one of my podcast episodes, please, 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 particularly in this holiday season for many of us, resolve even more to every day live 100% forward. Make the choice. You can do it and get the help that you need while you're doing it. Be blessed. I'll look forward to seeing you again by the grace of God at this time next week. Until then, John Morrow saying so long.